Hello there, Yop. So, for some reason, as I've explained in the email, the video yesterday did not upload, and thereby the email did not automatically send, but for some reason, it has also erased the original copy. So here we are again. So your first question on yet. Yet is in this case, is a conjunction. I don't know whether you mean that. A contraposition is a very complicated idea in logic, whereby if you take a logical position and say that something is true, then its opposite can also be used to prove the same thing. But we don't need to go into what a contraposition is. It's not a linguistic term. It's a philosophical and logical term. So yet is a conjunction in this case, and you have used it correctly. So with these two questions, what I would say is the paraphrase part needs to be done on this part. So we need to say something along the lines of, many educational professionals have called for an education revolution as a result of the fact that traditional schooling is considered out of date, boring, and, well, we could say outdated, uninteresting, and neglectful of children's innate abilities. So paraphrasing the question is just saying the same thing in a slightly different way. So this is essentially the bit that we need to paraphrase. This can then go into our thesis statement and our outline. We could say something like, many people push for an education revolution as a result of the belief that education is currently outdated, uninteresting, and neglects children's natural talents. This essay believes that there are alternatives to the education system. There are alternatives to the conventional education system that should be employed, since there is a risk that conventional education is doing more harm than good. So what we've done there is paraphrase the question, given a thesis statement, and outlined the ideas we will use in the essay. And that's all contained in the question. So with an introduction, really, what we're doing is just writing out the question and what will be contained in the essay, except if it's a two-part question like this, often the end of the question can become your thesis statement and your outline, because these are definitely the ideas that you have to discuss in the paragraphs. Paragraph 1 should be alternatives, paragraph 2 should be an assessment of whether it's doing harm or good, or the other way around. One paragraph for one paragraph for another. But the introduction needs to contain all of them. But we can incorporate different parts of the question into different sections of the introduction. So yeah, you do need to paraphrase. That should be the first part. I would say this is not necessarily about creativity. They could have a natural talent for mathematics. I would say there are many alternatives that could revolutionize the schooling system. I would say this essay firmly agrees that the education system is outdated. So now we've done all of the things. So don't panic about your use of yet. Yet can be used as an adverb. We have had yet more snow, which just means even more snow. Or it can be used as a conjunction, which is it almost means but not quite. Its closest approximation is probably however. It has been suggested that traditional education neglects children's innate abilities. However, there are many alternatives that could revolutionize the schooling system. Or, yet there are many alternatives that could revolutionize the schooling system. However and but and yet are kind of related. But, as a conjunction, it's good occasionally to use yet if the... let's pull up the definition, one sec. Let's pull this over there. There you go. But at the same time, but however, or but nevertheless. The path was dark, yet I slowly found my way. Here it's an adverb. But the way that we use it in formal writing, it's as a conjunction. Let me just get all of this back over here. So we don't need to use this is because. The key thing about this second sentence is that it explains fully whatever happened here. So what's the core idea? So we're saying that alternative schooling is great, that there are some good alternatives that are better than the current system. So this only has to mention that I wouldn't say that it is now time to make them aware of alternatives, because that's too much opinion. Many alternatives are arising around the globe. Here we don't even need this sort of this is important or this is because. We could just say these alternative schooling systems are showing very good, excellent results or outstanding results. Students who attended a new school designed by Sir Ken Robinson and mastered creative skill lessons. I would say to master creative skills would be better. So, students who attended a new school designed by Sir Ken Robinson to master creative skills outperformed other students in intelligence, communication skills, and leadership skills. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I get what you mean. This should go here. So we have students who attended a new school designed. So these students, specifically, outperformed these students in these areas. So it's just the way that it makes logical sense. These people did this against these people who did this. So these students outperformed these students in these areas. I wouldn't say is the way to go because it's kind of informal. We could say it should be further explored by countries around the world. Good. I would just say 80% of content 80% of the content of any university course will never be used by graduates in their future workplace. Therefore, it can be said, the old blah blah blah. Yes, there are loads. We can get creative if we want. So what we want to say, I wouldn't say creativity though. I would talk about children's natural talents. Excuse me. Things they could be good at on their own that just need nurturing, you know. So we could say favor of I knew it was going to do that. Pre-approved and largely irrelevant curricula. Okay, so largely irrelevant I get from this. If 80% of the content of the course is never going to be used, it can be said to be largely irrelevant. 80% of it is never needed, therefore it's largely irrelevant. So what you're trying to do with your therefore sentence is offer just a little bit of insight. Rather than saying, this is what I think and here's the evidence. Done. We say, this is what I think, here's the evidence, and this is what that means. What's it doing? Teaching people pre-approved and largely irrelevant curricula. What's it ignoring in order to do that? The natural and innate talents of young people that just need a little bit of nurturing. Search as the Ken Robinson. I'm not sure whether this is a double B, but it doesn't really matter. Must be built. So my personal view on these universal sentences at the end is that they're just not necessary. The point is, in a Band 7 response, we do all things well with relatively few errors. In Band 8, we do all things well with almost no errors and some unusual creative content, which means here you can't take instruction on this. It's something that has to come from you. Offering, at the end of a paragraph, in university for instance, or in a British school, if you were to write a paragraph that explained your point well, fully expanded it and made no mistakes, it could be a Band 7. But if you explain your point well, support it well, make no mistakes, and then at the end you offer a different perspective that's related, like say from a feminist perspective, or from a phenomenological perspective, or from an ontological perspective, schools of thought, if you can show that you can look at a topic from a variety of schools of thought, that's when that's when it's considered a creative response. A response from someone who can think from a variety of perspectives. It shows a mature mind, someone who can put themselves in the shoes of others and think, okay, so this is what it means to me, but what would it mean to that person? So that's the sort of, when we have these end sentences here, that's where these would go. From an XYZ perspective, from a Marxist perspective, whatever, from a biologist's perspective. So it's just about going that extra mile. What we normally, at IELTS Podcast, what we normally focus on is getting people above a Band 7, which is doing the basics well. If you want to jump further towards the band 8 and 9, then you have to get creative. You have to have an extremely wide-ranging vocabulary. If you want to, I mean, if you do the exam this week and it comes back that you didn't get a band 8, but that's what you wanted, then you could come back and I will try to put you together a more of a band 8 course. But this course you're currently doing does not focus on band 8. But back to my original point. These, we don't need them. If you want to do a prediction sentence at the end, that's cool. But these universal sentences that Ben encourages people to use at the beginning and the end, they're really only for use if you don't hit the word count. But you don't struggle with that. I mean, this is really long. We should be really aiming for about 280 words. 320 is not too bad. You're not going to lose points on it, and your work is very concise, so it's fine. But normally, we write around about 280 to 300 words. So if you're writing extra sentences for no reason, that may actually lose you points. So keep it relevant, you know, only write things that are strictly related to the task. So let's have a look. But you have tackled this question perfectly well. Alternatives, is it doing more harm than good? Is that fully discussed? Yes. You're right though, I think these could do with being a little bit more creative, but I wouldn't worry about it just now. If you're looking to get up to that band 8-9 response sort of score, then we can look at it a bit further. But at the moment, you are doing well, you are performing at about a band 7. If we can, I think, even just raise your confidence to the point where you believe that you are producing good responses, then you will score very well in the exam. But let's have a look at your next thing. So this is council expenditure in 1 year. So there's no there's no trends to discuss here because we can't talk about changes over time because we only have 1 year to measure. So the bar chart shows the council expenditure. I would say, yeah, in 6 different categories. So council expenditure on things. We spend on things. And the council expenditure would be seen in Yorkshire, Derbyshire and Lancashire. Cool. We could just say that. So if we just say focusing on Yorkshire Council's spending, that would be better. Focusing on Yorkshire Council spending. Education comprised around 35% of the total expenses, followed by leisure, community care, social science, environment and other, with for 25, 15, 10, 5 and 5 respectively. Derbyshire spent almost 33% on leisure and 25% on education, whereas social services comprised. These were, like, they're not incorrect, but they're not precise enough. They're not the specific tenses required. Spending, we don't tend to pluralize. So if we talk about a council's spending, it encompasses everything about the spending. We should link these together so that we know that it refers to social services. There we go. Lancashire spent roughly 30% on both leisure and education. Is this from everyone? So the category social services, environment, other and community care all received approximately 10% of the available money from each council in the year 2014. But yeah, there's no fourth paragraph necessary here. You've made comparisons. You've done everything else you were supposed to do. This is fine. Don't worry about it. You seem to be a worrier. All these question marks tell me you're a worrier. So you are a very capable student. Just remember that and go into the exam a little bit more confident. Believe in yourself. Your question about the next ones, processes, there is a flowchart to describe in the next set of questions if you want it. I tell you what, I'll send it over to you anyway. There's a new one about the energy security of green renewable energy and waste hauling truck trips. But then there's another one that's about processing tea. I'll send you that as well. Do all three. Cool. All right. Well, I will send this over to you now. I'll look forward to your final pieces. Speak to you soon, pal. Bye 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 bye.